Hello, my lovey, and welcome to another episode of ZFG Living Podcast. Today, we are lucky enough to be joined by Lesley Lindsey Davis, multiple best-selling author, has sold over 10,000 books. She's been on nearly 100 podcasts. This might tip her over. And participated in 10 online summits. She is a speaker, author, businesswoman extraordinaire. Thank you for being on the show, Lesley.
I'm speechless after such an introduction, even though I wrote it myself. Oh my God. Who is she talking about? Who is she talking about? But really and truly, I am so excited and honored to be sharing you with the world, because so many times you and I are having these individual conversations where we are, solving all these world problems, and the rest of the world has zero clue the genius that you have.
Indeed. And speaking of creative genius, that is what we are here to discuss, is creativity and how to maneuver with creative endeavors when you're balancing that with mental health concerns. Because obviously it's stressful to create something, to perfect it, to make sure you're sharing your message in the way you want to share it. That typically with you, Lesley, I know is books. But I would think this comes to any creative endeavor, where we have to settle down the relentless monkeys rattling around in our brain that are trying to, up the anxiety or, tip us out of balance. So what say you, madame?
Well, to be very, very honest, that's quite a tricky question, but to be very honest, back in January of 2021, when I hit publish for You Can't Eat Love, I was absolutely throwing up, not literally, but figuratively throwing up for days before I hit the button, and then for days after. But I came to realize and to understand that, number one, when we are creating something, as long as we are being honest and we are telling our story, it doesn't make any difference if it's a work of fiction or a work of nonfiction. If we are telling our story and we're being honest and true to the characters that are in our story, there is someone out there in the world that needs to hear that story.
Mm-hmm.
And if we don't release, the stranglehold that we have on that story, the other us's that are out there will never experience the freedom that we have. Because, and I know for you, when you were trying to get the journal done for the big book of bad ideas, when you were trying to get that done, you were really struggling with it. You were afraid it wasn't going to be good enough, and you had all of these not helpful thoughts.
That Karen, she was all up in my grill. Karen, of course, being the voice of my inner saboteur, my inner critic, that just nasty, nasty, relentless voice.
And when you hit publish and it went out there into the world, what was Karen saying at that moment in time?
I had squelched her out by that point. She was no longer in the vehicle.
Yep. You had kicked her out, headed on down I-10, 90 miles an hour, and she was, somewhere dealing with road rash or whatever, but no longer even in your rearview mirror.
Right.
So when people tell me that they are really struggling with trying to get their book published, not the physicality of publishing the book, but the actuality of their words going out into the world.
Right.
The question that I often ask is, tell me the hardest thing that you have ever done in your whole entire life. And so for you, what is the hardest thing you've ever done in your whole entire life?
Some pretty bleak, dark stuff. Yep.
This is not that hard.
Right. And perspective, I think, and reframing is so important when we are, when we can ask ourselves, what story am I telling myself here?
Right.
Is that true?
Yeah. And if it is true, to me, the follow-up question is it true to me And truthfully, honestly, I'm going to be really selfish here. The only person in my world that it matters that that story is true to is me.
Mm-hmm.
Because you come from a large family, I come from a large family. My reality is different from the reality of my siblings. Your
Right.
reality is different from the reality of your siblings because we're not walking, on top of each other. And even if we were, walking with our feet on somebody else's feet, you're still occupying a different space.
Mm-hmm.
So I asked myself when I was about to release the journey from failing to healing, which
Mm-hmm.
I uncovered the dirty, ugly truths about a whole lot of things about myself. I kept asking myself, what is my intention? Am I being honest and true to myself? And what is my intention? Am I naming the feelings that I've felt? Am I blaming anyone?
Right.
And you talk about mental health. And I think that that's really important because with regard to creativity and mental health, the creativity can be a way for me to heal some of the mental health issues that I have.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things that really helped liberate me was starting to have written conversations with myself.
Ooh, rocking the Marcus Aurelius approach. I love it.
Yes. And one day I was really, really angry with somebody and I was dancing all around that anger.
Mm-hmm.
And I took a breath and I asked myself, exactly who is it you're lying to? And I wrote that down. And my next statement was, I'm lying to myself. And in the book, You Can't Eat Love, I say that you lied to me and myself. I sees everything. And when I quit lying to myself and I started writing exactly how I really and truly felt about that person and the situation and all that, such a relief.
Mm-hmm.
And then I was actually able to, I don't remember what I was working on at the time exactly, but I was working on something and I'd been stuck with it. And I was actually able to move forward because that nonsense was no longer occupying space in my head.
Oh, I got you. Yeah, well, that's like the artist's way, where you just write out whatever gobbledygook is rattling around in your brain so that you can then get to work.
Yeah. And that's so important.
Yeah, 100%. And I also think that when we're writing in these, like you talked about, conversations with yourself, and when you're answering questions and getting these things out in a way that you're not, hurling blame at other people, you're just representing what you know is your truth and you're being authentic, then I think what that does is honors our little toddler egotistical quest for attachment and authenticity.
Yes.
So that we can give ourselves the safe place where we can be creative and we can create things that ring of truth, whatever our truth may be, whatever your characters, if you're writing fiction, or even if you're doing something research based, you can still put it together in a way that represents your thinking and your logic and shares that in your unique, beautiful way so that other people can benefit from it. Because I think most writers are wanting to help. They want to help share their story. They want to help people grow, all of these things. And so not getting in our own way is obviously a critical step to getting that, that story, that mission out into the world.
1000%.
And so when you're having, I would say it sounds like almost like a glitch or something, where you're masking, what you're trying to say, and you are very forthright and you're able to say, what lies are you telling yourself? I mean, that's a writing prompt if ever there were one. Damn, and I think that we tell ourselves stories all the time that can protect us, that can hold us back, that can propel us forward, that, we have different scripts that we use for different things. and remembering that we get to direct the script, we get to direct this, fabulous movie with all these cameo appearances by other people. And, but it is our story and we are the starring role in it. I think that that's really important to keep in mind, whether you're painting, whether you're dancing, whether you're, writing, any creative act can be a link to the divine. And it can also be a way to shroud yourself in like poor logic,
Well, definitely. And I will say I didn't come to that place all of a sudden. It took me a little while, to figure that out. And it was only about 6 years ago when I started having these honest conversations with myself.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the other piece to that is when we are being creative, and I use this for myself, I want to know what my intention is. Because some of the aha moments that I've had over the last several years were that, am I doing something because I'm expecting something back? Am I doing something because I want the accolades, I want the cheers, I want the bravos, to be, correct? What is my intention for doing this?
Mm-hmm.
And when I started challenging myself on, number one, being honest about what I'm thinking, and number two, being honest about what my intention is, that was extremely liberating. And I circled back around to something that I talk about quite often now. Who are you in control of?
Oh, yeah. That's a short list.
Very, very short list. It has one name on it.
100%.
And who are you not in control of? And that's a very, very long list. I believe that there are about 8 billion people in the world now. And,
right.
8 billion people are on that list. You are not in control of them. And parents, if you are out there and you've got a little tiny newborn baby, let me give you a real wake up message. You're not even in control of that baby. That baby's going to cry, it's going to go potty, it's going to do all of the things that baby wants to do. You are only in control of where you set that baby down.
And how you react to that baby.
And how you react. But that's you. That's you. So when I started understanding that if I'm clear with my intention, and if I'm being honest with myself, then it's easier to get out of my own way. Now, do I still get in my own way? Oh, yeah, I get in my own way. And I have this very, very fabulous friend who always dresses with the appropriate colors. She, helps talk me off of these edges, and I go on my merry way. But if you are struggling with creativity and you feel like, you've got a story trapped inside of you, just grab a pen. Grab a piece of paper and just start writing. Let it come out. Set a timer, 10, 15 minutes, and just write until you're dry or the timer goes off, whichever one comes first. But that's how you start getting out of your own way.
Right. It's to just begin. And I think I've read about this in like physical health. If you're, sort of dragging your feet and you don't feel like doing the walk or the workout or the yoga video or the whatever it is, we'll just physically get ready, lace up, put on the clothes that you wear when you're going to do something. And I think the same goes for creative endeavors. If you're, feeling like, oh, I can't look at this blank page any longer. Well, okay, start writing your name over and over again. Or, you know what I mean? Like Google, go to Claude.ai and be like, yo, give me some writing prompts. I'm writing a fiction this or a self-help book for whatever. And, and then just start writing, because we can make up all the reasons in the world to stop ourselves. And anxiety is a real beast and quite the taskmaster, which it's, hi, you will now reverberate with stress and do nothing, as opposed to, grab an envelope and start writing on it, start typing, talk to texting into your phone or however it is that you can create. And P.S., talk to text, holla, love it, love it, love it, love it, because that at least gives you a starting point.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
and I will add to that, meet you where you are.
Oh, that's nice. Along the lines of giving grace to yourself. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Meet you where you are. If you have never, ever, ever written anything outside of senior English where you had to do a 5-paragraph theme or something,
Hmm.
you know what? Say, okay, I sort of, kind of, almost remember how to do a 5-paragraph theme. Start there.
Yeah.
Start there. Or what happened to me, and this happened quite often, in fact, the journey from failing to healing is filled with this. I would be doing something else, and all of a sudden a thought would start coming into my head, and I'd grab a piece of paper and I'd just start vomiting out that thought. And then some of those thoughts, they were written on, crumpled pieces of paper, the back of an envelope, just random things. I think one was written on a sticky note or two. And then I stuck them someplace else until it was time to do something with them. Did I dictate when it was time to do something? No, they dictated to me when it was time to do something with them.
Right.
But just start writing those things down and then put them in a place, a safe place. Make yourself a note. Don't do what I do. And I put stuff in a safe place and then I lose it for 2 years. Yeah, I put the Christmas ornaments in a very safe place one time so they wouldn't get broken in the attic. And it was 2 years before I found them. And they had been right in front of me the whole time. Okay.
Right. 100%.
But meet you where you are. And tomorrow you'll be someplace else.
Yeah, that's 100% true. And also the story can change and coalesce in different ways that you weren't anticipating. And, if you have some side quests, where ideas pop up that are related, but tangential or, perhaps not relevant to whatever it is that you're creating right now, rock it out on some Post-it notes or, make a Google Doc and name it something that you'll remember and put it in a side quest folder so that you can go back to it later and see, is that going to turn into a blog or another essay or, something like that, or even a whole different book.
Or since, what we're talking about is how we're relating the creativity to mental health and mental wellness, maybe some of these things are just simply going to sit because that's all that they need to do.
Yeah.
And you need to get the hamsters out of your head. Because I'm on a quest to get the hamsters out of your head, send them back to the pet market and put them out of business. When we have those thoughts that are running in our head, oftentimes the most creative thing that you can do and the most freeing thing that you can do is to grab a pen and a piece of paper and start writing that thought.
Right.
And then see where that thought takes you. And sometimes that thought is going to turn into something that you never even imagined. Because I'll be really, really honest with you. The book, You Can't Eat Love, was published after I had turned 60 years old.
Okay.
I never, ever, ever in my wildest dreams ever imagined that I would actually have not one, not two, but 11 published books. Never in my life. Now, one of the things that did fall on my radar way back when that I wanted to be was to be a Catholic priest. And there were only 2 problems with that. One, I wasn't Catholic, and I will let you figure out what the other problem was. But being a published author and an author who has people actually reaching back to them and saying, oh my gosh, you said what I've longed to say, was never on my radar.
Giving voice to people who hadn't found their voice has been one of the most rewarding things in my life.
Yes. So if you had these words that are in your head, or you had your hands that are wanting to create something, meet that creativity, whatever it looks like. It could be clay, it could be paint, it could be quilting, it could be, whatever that creativity looks like, whatever it yearns to be, allow it to have life. And don't worry if it's messy. Last time
that's really hard, especially when, people with perfectionist tendencies.
Yeah.
traumatic backgrounds. It's easy to be emotionally, well, it's not easy to be emotionally self-aware, but, we can be aware of how something's playing out and still be resistant to giving it freeness to curve around and become this gossamer butterfly wing, that it's scary and it's vulnerable. And that's why art is powerful. And that's why creativity is powerful. And to lean into that and just love on that inner child and give yourself permission to have a voice and to share what you feel. And I can guarantee you it is far, far better than being like, no, I need to put a stopper in this bottle and not share.
And as you are trying, and I would encourage you to simply take a deep breath when you're trying to begin that creativity process. Tell those voices that are talking to you to go sit down in the corner, that you've got this. And I don't care if you need to tell them 100,000 times. I can't tell you how many times I told the voices, just go sit down, just go sit down.
Yep. Get out of here.
Because if you are anything like me, I was told that I shouldn't be feeling certain ways. Actually, I shouldn't be feeling anything. So I learned how to do angry really well, and that's the extent of my emotions. So as you start freeing that creativity inside of you, one of the things that's going to start happening is these emotions are going to start bubbling up. And then those voices are going to start telling you you shouldn't be feeling that way. And the truth of the matter is, how you feel is how you feel, and nobody else gets a vote.
Right.
You don't get a vote.
Period.
At all. Period.
Yeah, I agree 100%.
To be sad.
And to be sad, to be lonely, to be angry, to lash out. You can have all of those feelings and observe them and be aware of them and allow them to enrich your life, and still recognize that they're not necessarily based in truth.